She was always there. Even in the cold asters, the rain fell hard that morning. Dark clouds covered the sky. The streets were almost empty. Daniel stood inside his small shop, watching the cold wind move the trash outside. He held a warm cup of tea in his hand, but his eyes stayed fixed on the sidewalk. She was there again, just like every morning for the past 2 months. An alien woman, curled up against the wall outside his shop, her back pressed to the cold stone. Her skin was pale blue, her face thin, tired, and quiet. She never looked at anyone. She never asked for help. She just lay there, like a forgotten shadow. People walked past her like she didn't exist. Some turned away, some laughed. Others told Daniel, "You should call someone. Security, maybe." Daniel never did. He didn't know why. Maybe it was her eyes. He had seen them once only for a second. They didn't look scared. They looked tired, like someone who had run too far and couldn't run anymore. Every night, she slept near his door. Every morning, she was still there, never speaking, never moving much. She wore the same torn clothes every day, just a dark cloak, too thin for the weather. Her bare feet were red from the cold ground. Daniel placed a small plate of food outside every night after closing. Bread, sometimes a sandwich, sometimes soup in a metal cup. By morning, it was always gone. She never left a trace, never a thank you, never a word. Still, she came back. This morning was colder than usual. Daniel turned on the heater in the shop, but it didn't help the feeling in his chest. He watched as she shifted slightly, trying to pull her cloak tighter. A loud noise came from the street corner. A few boys were laughing and shouting. One of them pointed at her. "Look, the alien trash is still here." Daniel stepped outside quickly. He didn't say anything, just stood there. His presence was enough. The boys left. The woman didn't move. She didn't even flinch. Daniel looked down at her. She was thinner than before. Her hands were shaking. Her skin was turning a sickly shade of gray-blue. "You'll die out here," he whispered. She didn't answer. Her eyes were closed. He stood there for a long moment. People walked past him. The sky grew darker. Finally, he turned and walked back inside. But he didn't sit down. He didn't sip his tea. He walked to the back, opened a cabinet, took out a soft blanket. He opened the door again, stepped outside. She didn't open her eyes when he wrapped the blanket around her. He placed another plate of food next to her. Hot soup this time. Then he knelt beside her and said, softly, "Come inside. You don't have to speak. You can just sit in the warm. I won't ask anything." Her eyes opened slowly. They were golden, glowing slightly in the dim light. For a second, Daniel felt something strange, like a wave of emotion passed through him. Sadness, pain, hope. She looked at the open door, then at him. "Please," Daniel said. Just for a while, her hands moved slowly, like she wasn't sure her body would listen. She stood up on shaking legs. Daniel stepped back and opened the door wide. She stepped inside. The shop was quiet. The warmth hit her skin like a gentle wave. She walked to the corner, sat on a wooden bench near the heater, and pulled the blanket tighter. Daniel didn't speak. He just made tea. He placed the cup in front of her and walked to the counter. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, for the first time in weeks, the silence felt different. It felt like something had begun. Her eyes were not like ours. The heater hummed softly in the corner of the shop. Outside, the wind howled and pushed against the glass door. But inside, everything was quiet. Daniel sat behind the counter, pretending to read a book. But his eyes kept drifting to the woman in the corner. She hadn't touched the tea. She hadn't said a word. Her thin body was curled up on the bench, the blanket wrapped tightly around her. Her skin looked dry and cracked. Her breathing was soft, but uneven. Daniel had helped many travelers before, tired traders, lost workers, even injured animals. But nothing felt like this. This wasn't normal kindness. This felt different. There was something about her. She looked human from far away, but up close, it was clear she wasn't. Her skin was smooth, but not like his. It shimmered faintly in the light. Her ears were slightly pointed, her fingers longer, more delicate. But her eyes were not like anything he'd seen. When she first looked at him, Daniel felt something move inside him, like her eyes could see more than just his face, like they could see his thoughts, his memories, his pain. And still, they did not judge him. Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger. The sky was dark, even though it was still daytime. Daniel quietly placed a bowl of soup near her. This time, she moved, slowly, carefully. Her fingers touched the edge of the bowl. She brought it to her lips and drank. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to die later. As night fell, Daniel locked the door and turned off most of the lights. Only the small lamp near the counter stayed on. He walked to the back room and brought out a small pillow. He placed it near her without saying anything. She looked at him again, those golden eyes, glowing faintly, not in anger, not in fear, just watching. He couldn't sleep that night. Daniel lived above the shop. His small room had a window that looked down to the street. He kept the lights off and stared at the glowing signs outside. But his thoughts stayed on the woman below. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she sleeping outside his shop for all those weeks? In the early morning, a loud sound woke him. He jumped up and ran downstairs. The woman was standing now near the back shelves. Her eyes were wide. She was breathing hard, shaking. Daniel froze. Are you okay? He asked, his voice calm. She turned to him. Then she spoke her first words. They found me. Her voice was soft, broken, and strange. The words were clear, but the sound was layered, like the voices speaking at once. Who? Daniel asked, stepping forward. The ones who chase. She said, they want to take me again. Daniel felt his heart beat faster. You're safe here, he said. She shook her head. Nowhere is safe. Before Daniel could speak, she reached out and grabbed his wrist. His eyes widened, and then everything changed. In an instant, Daniel was no longer in the shop. He was standing in darkness. Floating. Images flew around him, memories, flashes, screams. He saw a white room, metal walls, bright lights. He saw her strapped to a table, crying. He saw tall figures in dark suits watching her. Machines, wires, pain. He saw her escape. Running, hiding, bleeding. He felt her fear. He felt her loneliness. He felt her hope. And then he was back. The shop lights blinked. The heater made a strange noise. Daniel stumbled back, breathing hard. She let go of his wrist. What was that? He asked. My truth, she whispered. Daniel didn't speak for a while. Finally, he said, you were running. She nodded. Double quotes, and now they're coming. She nodded again. Daniel looked at her. He didn't see a stranger anymore. He saw someone who had suffered, someone who had survived, someone who had trusted him with her story. He nodded slowly. That we don't open the door for anyone. Her eyes softened. For the first time, she looked less afraid, and Daniel knew one thing. This wasn't just a visitor. This was the beginning of something far greater. She was being hunted. The next morning felt colder than usual, even though the sun was shining. The streets were quiet, too quiet. Daniel stood by the front window of his shop, holding his breath. 3 figures were standing across the street. They weren't human, not fully. They wore dark coats and metal gloves. Their eyes were hidden behind black glasses. They didn't move. They just watched. They're here, she said softly. Daniel turned. The alien woman stood behind him, wrapped in the same blanket. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. Are they the ones who hurt you? He asked. She nodded. Why? Are they after you? She looked down. Her golden eyes flickered. Because I remember what they want to erase. The shop stayed closed that day. Daniel turned the sign and locked the doors. He made food. She barely ate. Outside, the watchers never left. They just waited. Daniel sat beside her that evening. The lights were dim. The air felt heavy. What's your name? He asked. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Era. He nodded. Slowly, Era. You can stay here as long as you need. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. You're not like the others, she whispered. I'm just a shopkeeper. He replied. You opened your door, she said. No one else ever did. Later that night, the lights in the shop began to flicker. Era stood up quickly, her body tensed. Daniel looked around. Power problem? No, she said. They're testing the area, scanning for me. Daniel felt something move deep in the walls, like a buzz, quiet but strong. Era placed her hand on the wall. The flickering stopped. What did you do? I told the shop to hide me, she said simply. Daniel stared. You can talk to machines, some old ones with feelings left in them. He didn't understand, but somehow it made sense. At midnight, Daniel peeked through the front blinds. The watchers were gone. He felt relief until he noticed a small blinking light under the trash bin. A tracker. They'll come back, Era said, and next time, they won't be watching. They'll be taking. Daniel's fist clenched. We need help. Era shook her head. No one can help. I've been to 5 colonies. I begged. They all shut their doors. There must be someone. She looked at him. Her eyes were tired again. Why are you helping me? She asked. You don't even know me. Daniel paused. Because no one helped my sister when she needed it. Era tilted her head. She was sick, Daniel said. We were young. People walked past her every day. I couldn't do anything. She died in a corner while I cried beside her. I swore if I ever saw someone like her again, I wouldn't walk away. Era stared at him. For a long time. Then she whispered, You're the first human I've ever trusted. The next day, strange things started happening. The delivery man who usually smiled didn't look up. A local trader crossed the street when he saw Daniel. Even his old neighbor didn't wave. They're spreading fear, Era said. It's what they do. Daniel stayed quiet, but his jaw tightened. He opened the back door that night. You have 2 choices, he said, run or fight. But if you choose to run, you won't run alone. Era looked out at the dark alley behind the shop. Then she turned back to him. I'm tired of running. Daniel nodded. Double quotes that we prepare. Era sat on the floor. Her hands moved over old wires and forgotten tech. She closed her eyes and spoke. Softly. Daniel didn't understand the words, but he felt the energy shift. The lights glowed blue. The walls seemed to breathe. She was waking something inside the shop. What are you doing? I'm asking the old systems to protect us, she said. Daniel blinked. Will it work? She looked up. It worked before, when I escaped. He didn't ask more. He just started moving crates to block the windows. They didn't know how many were coming, but they knew one thing. They weren't going to give up without a fight. The truth she hid broke him. The shop was silent, but the air felt full of pressure. Daniel sat on a small stool near the back door, watching Era as she worked. Her hands moved slowly, touching wires, metal parts, and old panels inside the wall. Lights flickered, then glowed blue. You're not just hiding from them, Daniel finally said. You're hiding something else too. Era didn't look at him. She kept her fingers pressed to the wall. Yes, she said. There are things you don't know. Things no one is supposed to know. Then tell me, Daniel said quietly. If I'm risking my life for you, I want the truth. Era's golden eyes lifted toward him. You won't like it, she whispered. I still want to know. She stood slowly. Her hands dropped to her sides. She took one step toward Daniel. Give me your hand, she said. Daniel hesitated, then reached out. Era took his hand gently and closed her eyes. And just like before, everything changed. He wasn't in his shop anymore. He stood in space, floating between stars. But the stars were fading. One by one, they died. He saw burning planets, cities in flames. He saw her young, afraid. Standing in a white room. A group of humans in black suits stood around her. One of them smiled and said, She's perfect. She can connect. She can control. They had found her species long ago, not to help, but to use. Her people were taken silently. In a night. Cut open, experimented on, made into living machines. Daniel watched, helpless, as her memories flooded him. Era screaming inside a lab. Her skin burned. Her body turned into a living circuit. She was just a girl. They called it Project Silent Gate, and it was human. The vision ended. Daniel fell back, gasping. His hands shook. We did this. Era nodded slowly. Not you, not all, but yes, your kind started it. Daniel sat in silence. He felt sick. His chest was heavy. They were supposed to protect, he said softly. The Space Alliance. They promised peace. Era looked away. Peace is only for those with power. The silence between them lasted for minutes. Finally, Daniel stood. He walked to the window and stared outside. The street was quiet. The Watchers were still gone. But now he knew they wouldn't stay gone. They would return, not just to take her, but to erase what she knew. You carry the truth, he said. That's why they hunt me, Era said. They erased my world. But I remember. And if I speak, others will remember too. Daniel turned. So we make sure you speak. Era stared at him. You believe me, even after what humans did. Daniel nodded. Truth is truth, even if it hurts. He grabbed an old box from under the counter. Inside were pieces of a data cube, Something he used years ago to store shop records. Can you use this? He asked. Air picked it up. She closed her eyes. The cube lit up blue. Yes, it can hold everything I remember. Then let's save it. All of it. They worked together all night. Era spoke softly, not with words, but with energy. Her thoughts moved into the cube. Memories, places, faces, the pain, the loss, the hope. Daniel watched in silence. He no longer saw her as an alien. He saw her as a survivor. And now, she was his responsibility to die in the morning. The city was no longer quiet. Ships flew lower. Soldiers marched in small groups. The watchers were back, and they weren't alone. Daniel placed the data cube in a metal box and hid it beneath the floor. Even if they take me, he said, this truth must live. Air nodded. Double quotes, I won't let you die for me. That we protect each other, he said. She touched his hand once more. You are not like the others, she whispered. Maybe, he replied. But I won't let them take you. The war was not outside anymore. It had already begun inside his small shop. And both of them knew truth always comes with a price. They came for her. The sun was still rising when Daniel heard the first sound. Heavy boots marching on the street outside. He looked through the blinds. Black armored soldiers lined the block. They stood in rows, blocking every exit. 3 large drones floated above the shop. Red lights flashed quietly. Daniel single quotes as heart pounded. A loud voice echoed from a speaker. This is a restricted zone. Surrender the fugitive now. You have 60 seconds. Inside the shop, Era stood near the back. She didn't shake. She didn't cry. She simply whispered, it's time. Daniel moved quickly. He opened the floor panel and pulled out the hidden metal box. The data cube inside still glowed faintly. Take this, he said. If they get you, at least this must survive. Era stepped forward. No, you keep it. They'll search me first. Daniel replied, You might still get away. She looked at him with those golden eyes. I won't run without you. Outside, the speaker shouted again. Last warning, open the door, or we break it down. Daniel took a breath and stood by the door. He looked back at her. Do you trust me? He asked. Double quotes, yes. He pressed a button under the counter. Metal walls dropped over the windows. The front door locked with a loud click. Lights dimmed. The whole shop began to hum. Era single quotes as energy had activated something deep in the old system. This place is awake now, she said. It will protect us for a while. Daniel nodded, but they both knew not for long. The soldiers started cutting. Through the door, sparks flew. Smoke filled the air. Era stood in the center of the shop, her hands raised, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Machines around her started to flicker. Tools, wires, even the lights. What are you doing? Daniel asked. Calling the rest of me, she said softly. What does that mean? My kind was spread, hidden, but we're still connected. Even if weak, if they hear me, they might come. Daniel didn't know what to say. The door burst open. Soldiers rushed in with weapons pointed. They shouted commands. Daniel raised his hands. Stop. She's not hurting anyone. They pushed him to the ground. A soldier pointed a weapon at Era. She didn't move. Do not resist, the commander said. You are property of Project Silent Gate. Those words hit Daniel like ice. Property. She wasn't a person to them. Just a machine, a tool. He shouted, she's not property. She's alive. She remembers. She feels. But they didn't listen. They moved forward. Era looked down at Daniel. I won't let you die, she said. Then she raised both hands. The lights exploded. A wave of energy flew out from her body. The walls shook. The soldiers fell back. Sparks flew across the room. She stood in the middle of it all, glowing with soft blue light. But her body was trembling. This power was hurting her. Stop, Daniel shouted. You'll kill yourself. She fell to her knees. The light faded. The soldiers rose again. But before they could move, something changed. The back door broke open. A group of aliens entered. Tall, silent, glowing with the same energy Era held. They spoke no words. But the soldiers stepped back. One of them, older, walked toward Era. She looked up, tears in her eyes. You heard me, she whispered. The alien nodded. You are not alone anymore. The soldiers raised their weapons again, but something stopped them. People from the street were gathering now. Neighbors, workers, traders. They saw the guns. They saw Era on the ground. They saw Daniel hurt and bleeding. Someone in the crowd shouted, leave them alone. Then another. And another. Soon A wall of people stood between the soldiers and the shop. The commander paused. He looked at his soldiers. He looked at the glowing aliens. He looked at the angry crowd. He gave the signal. They left. Just like that. The danger was gone. For now. Inside the shop, Daniel helped Era sit up. You're safe, he said. She shook her head. No, not yet. But today, we won. He smiled weakly. Then let's make sure we win tomorrow too. Asterisk, the city turned against them. Then, for them, asterisk, news spread quickly. By morning, everyone in the city had heard the story. An alien woman, a small shop, soldiers, and one human who didn't stay silent. Daniel's single quotes S face was on every screen. Some called him a traitor. Others called him a hero. But the truth was simple. He just opened his door. Era sat on the floor of the shop, wrapped in a new blanket. Her body was weak. Her glow was dim. The power she had used the day before left her drained. Daniel handed her a glass of water. She took it slowly and said, "They won't stop." "I know," Daniel replied, but something had changed. The people had seen everything. Videos were everywhere. How the soldiers came, how Era didn't fight back, how she tried to protect Daniel, and how strangers stood in front of guns to protect them both. They saw the truth, she said. Yes, Daniel nodded. And now they must decide what to do with it. Later that afternoon, Daniel opened the shop door. For the first time in days, there were no soldiers outside, but there were people. A small group. Quiet, curious. They didn't come to buy anything. They came to see her. Daniel didn't stop them. An old woman stepped forward first. She didn't speak. She simply placed a warm loaf of bread on the counter and nodded. A young alien boy followed her. He handed Daniel a metal toy and said, "For her." A shopkeeper from across the street left a bottle of medicine on the ground and walked away without a word. Era watched from inside, her golden eyes wide with surprise. "Why are they helping now?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Because sometimes it only takes one person to be brave first. The rest just need to see it." As the day went on, more people came. Some stayed quiet. Some cried. Some said, "We're sorry," not just to her but to each other. They remembered what it meant to care, but not everyone was happy. In the shadows of the city, others were planning. They called Daniel a danger. They called Era a threat. They spread fear against, saying she was a weapon, not a person. Flyers appeared on walls. "Don't trust the alien. Humans first. She will bring war." Daniel tore the flyers down, but more appeared. He stood in his shop, fists tight, heart heavy. "They don't know you," he told her. "They don't want to." Era looked down. Her voice was soft. "Maybe they're right to fear me. I've seen too much." Daniel shook his head. "No. Fear is easy. That's why it spreads. But kindness is stronger. It just needs time." That night, Daniel found his window smashed. Red paint covered his door. A message was written in thick lines. "Get out." He stood outside in the dark, holding a bucket of water. Era came beside him, barefoot and silent. "You still believe in them?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he dipped the sponge into the bucket. "Yes," he said. "I believe the ones who hurt are louder, but not greater." In the morning, something unexpected happened. A group of humans and aliens stood outside Daniel's shop with brushes and paint. "We came to clean," one woman said. "We came to help," said another. Someone brought flowers. Someone else brought tools. Without asking, they started fixing everything. Era watched from the doorway. She blinked slowly, unsure if this was real. A small girl with 4 arms walked up to her and held out a drawing. It showed Era and Daniel standing under a tree, smiling. "This is you," the girl said. Era took the drawing with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. For the first time, she smiled. By evening, the shop looked better than before. The broken windows were gone. The red paint was covered with colorful handprints, humans and aliens together. On the door, someone had written, "Home is where kindness lies." Daniel sat beside Era on the bench inside. "The city turned against us," he said. "But then it turned for us," she replied. He nodded. "And now?" She looked out at the people passing by. "Now, it's beginning to heal." But deep in the stars above the colony, ships moved in silence. Not every power wanted peace. Some still wanted her secret to vanish. Some still wanted her gone. The fight was not over. But for now, in a small shop with a warm light, hope was alive. She left something behind. Days passed. Then weeks. The shop returned to its quiet rhythm. People came and went. Daniel's shelves stayed full. Laughter and kindness replaced fear. The city began to breathe again, but Era was no longer there. She had left during the early morning before the sun rose, before the streets woke up. Daniel found only a note beside the blanket where she used to sleep. They still watch, but now they fear truth. I must keep moving. Thank you for opening your door. You didn't just save me, you saved many. Era, he read the note a dozen times, not because he didn't understand, but because part of him didn't want to believe she was gone. Every morning, Daniel still looked toward the corner where she once sat. It was empty now, but it didn't feel cold anymore. She had left something else behind, something invisible. A feeling, a memory, a spark. A few days later, a delivery arrived. The box was small, heavy, and sealed with silver markings. No name, no return address, just the symbol of a glowing Era's mark. Daniel opened it carefully. Inside was the same data cube they had filled with her memories, but it was different now, more stable, more complete. Alongside it was a tiny metal seed and a small note carved on a crystal plate. Plant this where the sky can see it. Daniel didn't know what the seed was, but something inside told him it was important. He closed the shop early that day, walked outside the city, across the hills. He stopped by a quiet cliff where the stars always shine the brightest. With his hands, he dug into the earth and placed the seed gently inside. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "You're not forgotten." Then he waited. Nothing happened at first. But 3 days later, a small plant began to grow. Its leaves were blue and soft, glowing slightly at night. By the end of the week, it was nearly the size of a tree. By the end of the month, people from across the colony came to see it. They didn't call it a plant. They called it a light root. Some said it healed pain. Some said it whispered at night. Others said it remembered stories. No one knew the truth, except Daniel. He just smiled and said, "She left it for us." Years passed. The shop stayed the same. Warm lights, soft music, good tea. Children played near the shelves. Stories were told. But one story always lived at the center of it all. The alien woman who slept outside, the man who opened his door, and the tree that grew from kindness. One day, a girl walked into the shop. She had golden eyes. Her skin was pale blue. She wore a small pendant shaped like a light root leaf. She looked around and whispered, "This is the place." Daniel, now older with gray hair, turned slowly from behind the counter. He saw her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She smiled. And in her smile, Daniel saw the past and the future. "Are you Era's daughter?" he asked. The girl nodded. "She told me about you," she said. "When the world is too heavy, find the one who opened the door." Tears filled Daniel's eyes. "You're home," he said. She walked to him and hugged him gently. And in that moment, Daniel knew kindness never disappears. It only grows, sometimes into a tree, sometimes into a child, and sometimes in the hope that never dies.